Luffy vs. Kaido is the greatest anime fight I have ever seen. It is by far the best fight in all of One Piece. I am opening this video with a very strong claim that I intend to fully back up by the end of it, so I ask you to make yourselves comfortable and bear with me. As we know, One Piece is a series often held in high regard for its immaculate world building. Now on the cusp of 1100 chapters, author Eiichiro Oda has carefully crafted what many consider to be a modern odyssey. Despite this, One Piece is at its core still a shonen series, meaning countless fights are not only expected. Given the sheer scale of this series, countless fights are a guarantee. Thankfully, One Piece has no shortage of awesome battles. Not every fight is perfect, and some are definitely worse than others, but I would say that on average, One Piece absolutely nails it in the action department. Yet there is one specific fight that I consider to be the pinnacle, Eiichiro Oda's magnum opus, Luffy vs. Kaido. Understand this, Luffy vs. Kaido had a lot riding on it. Let's forget 1 second the story circumstances which led us to this grand collision and look at it as simply as possible. This is Luffy finally taking on an Emperor of the Sea one-on-one. The very concept of the Emperors or the Yonko was established in Post in his lobby. For context, that is about 500 chapters between the introduction of Kaido, at least by name, and the ultimate showdown with Kaido. It is driven into our heads the gravity which comes with the Four Emperors' existence, meaning the ramifications of fighting a Yonko and subsequently defeating one are so stark, the fallout from such an event normally results in a widespread global shakeup. What we got from Luffy vs. Kaido is much more than what anyone could have ever expected, narratively and action-wise. Kaido is an opponent unlike anyone Luffy had ever faced up to this point. Luffy was way in over his head after defeating Katakuri on a Whole Cake Island, but the world's strongest creature is called exactly that for a reason. Now, we've seen Luffy lose before, it's nothing new. It took Luffy multiple attempts to defeat Crocodile, but Luffy losing like this early on in the arc, nobody seen it coming, and that's what makes it brilliant. On one hand, losing at this juncture will allow Luffy to train in an attempt to make up for his shortcomings, and on the other hand, Kaido looked like an absolute badass after defeating Luffy with one single attack. If the Straw Hats narrowly escaping death at the hands of Big Mom didn't say it, Kaido's victory here certainly did. The Yonko are a different breed of man. Luffy wasn't ready to defeat a pirate of this caliber. Not yet, at least. After weeks of training under the hellish conditions of Udon Prison, Luffy would confront this powerful foe once more, with a better grasp of his opponent's biological makings as well as the haki necessary to penetrate the mighty beast's defenses. If there is one thing Oda does better than anyone, man, it's create hype. The build up to the rematch of Luffy vs. Kaido was surrounded in an aura of anticipation and mystique. We were no longer just wondering how was Luffy going to beat Kaido. The question then became how would he pull it off after losing so definitively last time? Would the training leading up to the raid pay off, or was another defeat in Luffy's future? What Luffy demonstrated on the rooftop is that he is in fact a top tier now. To be compared to some of the greatest warriors in the world of One Piece by Kaido of all people is only a testament of Monkey D. Luffy's strength. Another thing that I think makes this fight so special is how multi-layered it is. Throughout this fight, we are seeing Luffy push himself like never before. The fate of Wano and his dream of becoming Pirate King are all dependent on conquering Kaido, and on the contrary, as the fight progressed, the dominant Dragon King found himself having fun. For the first time in 2 decades, Kaido was being challenged. I love the direction that Oda went with Luffy vs. Kaido, because the latter are actually looking forward to an epic fight, and seeking an epic death already sets it apart from every other Luffy fight in the series. This opened up doors for a more nuanced battle. Instead of this being a generic case of good versus evil, both characters are actively overcoming challenges as the fight progresses. Luffy is closing the gap with each comeback he makes, and Kaido's nihilistic boredom is shedding the longer he fights this incredible super rookie pirate. With a fight as lengthy as this one, you would think at some point or another the action might grow repetitive, but it's quite the opposite. The longer the fight went on, the more enjoyable it became. The large arsenals of Luffy and Kaido combined with the nature of their respective fruit powers all but guaranteed a battle capable of shaking heaven and earth alike. Now, Kaido is a warrior of many surprises. His double fruit provides a wide variety of attacks and forms to take. Outside of his fruit powers, the man can see into the future. He's as quick as a rabbit. His destructive capabilities are out of this world, he's built like a boulder, his conqueror's haki is potent as hell, and he has insane levels of endurance. It's no wonder why for so long Kaido was regarded as the world's strongest pirate. This is one tough customer Luffy was dealing with, but just like he always does, Luffy pledges to give it his all, and the rest will ultimately sort itself out. An unfortunate truth of reality is no matter how much you punch at a mountain, it is still a mountain all the same, and this was a bitter lesson our plucky protagonist had to face many times over. There were numerous occasions where Luffy thought he put it all together, where he firmly believed he finally acquired the key to taking down Kaido, just to be met with the bitter taste of defeat. But this is what it means to wage war against a Yonko. Luffy versus Kaido is the blueprint of what a high-level battle is supposed to look and feel like. Regardless of the initial gap in power between these two, this duel manages to keep you on the edge of your seat, with your eyes eagerly anticipating the next barrage of attacks the two powerful pirates will exchange. You could really tell that what Oda wanted to accomplish here with Luffy vs Kaido is for the grandest battle that he would ever draw up to this point to be remembered as one thing, and that one thing is fun. And in my personal opinion, he achieved that and then some. Kaido drinking himself into a stupor and proceeding to let the smackdown on Luffy might be the most fun I have ever had watching a One Piece villain in action. It's the type of wacky and unpredictable shenanigans Oda loves to mix in with his characters. In the case of Kaido, seeing the many sides of his drunken rage is enough to invoke a good laugh and a looming sense of terror all at the same time. This section of Luffy vs Kaido in particular can be best described as an anxiety-inducing roller coaster brawl to the death. The overwhelming urgency to defeat Kaido now, before Luffy's final Gear 4 runs out, coupled with Kaido's ever-growing bloodlust and enjoyment of the contest, creating an atmosphere of tension that takes your breath away all the way up to its closing sequence. What could have been the final determining clash between Luffy vs Kaido was sadly interrupted by CP0. Resulting in yet another defeat for Luffy, and I have to stop to appreciate this. It is a stroke of genius the way this part of the fight ends. In this moment, it is beautifully conveyed how painful it was for Kaido to realize what happened. Kaido is declared the winner, but at what cost? He won, but it was only due to interference. He was the victor, but the sourness of winning like that served to only piss off the world's strongest creature. But luckily for Kaido, or unfortunately for Kaido, depending on how you want to look at it, his death blow to Luffy would activate a 900-year prophecy. We were all anticipating Gear 5. There were all kinds of ideas and speculation floating about as to what the new form could possibly look like, but I doubt anyone foresaw what we got. Gear 5 changed everything, and the craziest part of it all is that Oda initially drew this form as a joke. As characters get stronger in battle manga, it's standard practice for these fights to be a bit more serious and kinda dull and straightforward. This is something not unfamiliar to One Piece, although the story does make sure to maintain its lighthearted tone even in the midst of deathly duels. The finale of Luffy vs Kaido legitimately takes this fight to a whole other level. With his Devil Fruit powers now awakened, Luffy would exhibit a level of tomfoolery and toon force that would make your eyes pop out of your head upon seeing it. Luffy was free to fight however he wanted, and there is nothing now that he can't do. Gear 5 isn't just Luffy's peak, this is One Piece at its peak. Only One Piece can turn the biggest fight of the series into scenes straight out of a comic strip. It was thanks to Kaido that Luffy was able to tap into his highest form, and it is thanks to Luffy that Kaido would get the fight he's always wanted. Luffy vs Kaido is a great example of a saga's climactic battle exceeding expectations. Despite this new power Luffy acquired, the beastly Kaido would not go down so easily, standing his ground to the very end against the awakened Sun God. The final decisive clash between these fearsome men was grandiose and otherworldly, as Luffy prepared his strongest attack yet, the ridiculous Bajra gun. A fist bigger than the island of Onigashima itself, Kaido too would don his ultimate attack, coating himself in an enormous flame dragon no less than 20 times the size of Kaido's normal dragon form. This was it, folks, do or die. Only one man will walk away victorious. While Luffy and Kaido exchange their last attacks, what we see unfold is a clash of ideals and personalities. Kaido curses Luffy's efforts, saying he will never be able to change anything, We see Kaido flash through many different phases of his life, all of which created the man today, a ruthless dictator who also thought he could change the world, but instead settled for mass oppression, famine, and pointless violence. That is the world Kaido created. But the world Luffy wants is one where his friends can eat as much as they like, whenever they want to. And just like that, Kaido was sent spiraling to the core of the earth, where he ultimately met his end. The winner of the battle in the skies of Wano was Straw Hat Luffy. Luffy vs Kaido served to usher in a new era of One Piece. Naturally, the conclusion of this battle will come with its fair share of consequences. But most importantly, it is in this fight where the legendary figure Joy Boy returned, overcoming the dragon deity Kaido. Perhaps it is here where the story of One Piece truly begins. Alright, that's all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like, leave a comment, and of course, subscribe. And I'll catch you lovely people later.